Modal verbs and semi-modals. Introduction 1. Modal verbs are auxiliary verbs used to express attitudes, obligations, permissions, abilities, or possibilities in a sentence. They modify the main verb to convey various nuances of meaning. There are 9 main modal verbs in English: can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, would. 1. Can is used to indicate ability, possibility, permission, or request. For example, I can swim. Can I borrow your pen? 2. Could is similar to can but often used to express past ability or as a more polite form of making requests. For example, she could speak French fluently when she was younger. Could you please pass the salt? In short, can is generally used for present situations, while could is typically used for past situations or as a more polite form of can in requests or offers. Note: for infinitive, future or present perfect, instead of using can or could, we use be able to. For example, it is useful to be able to order things by email. Soon, I'll be able to speak French quite well. Have you been able to speak Russian for a long time? 3. May is used to express possibility, permission, or a wish. For example, it may rain later. May I come in? 4. Might is often used to express a lesser degree of possibility compared to may. For example, she might arrive late. I might go to the party if I finish my work on time. We must leave now to catch the train. In short, while both may and might are used to express possibility, may implies a higher degree of probability and is often used in more formal contexts, especially when asking for permission. Might suggests a lower degree of probability and is often used to indicate hypothetical or uncertain situations. 5. Must indicates obligation, necessity, or strong recommendation. For example, you must finish your homework before you can watch TV. Note: must often implies a sense of authority or a rule that must be followed. 6. Shall is primarily used in questions to make suggestions, offers, promises, or to express future actions, particularly in formal contexts. For example, shall we go for a walk? I shall do my best to help you. 7. Should indicates advice, recommendation, or expectation. For example, you should eat more vegetables. I should call my parents soon. Note: should implies a weaker obligation or necessity compared to must. It suggests what is advisable or desirable, rather than required. In short, must indicates strong obligation or necessity, shall is used for suggestions, offers, or future actions, and should is used for advice. 8. Will is used to express future action, willingness, or determination. For example, she will arrive tomorrow. I will help you with your project. 9. Would is typically used to express hypothetical situations, polite requests, or habits in the past. For example, if I won the lottery, I would travel the world. Would you mind closing the window? In summary, while both will and would are used to express future actions, will indicates a higher degree of certainty and is used for promises or decisions made at the moment of speaking, while would is used for hypothetical situations or polite requests. 2. Semi-modals are a group of verbs in English that have characteristics of both modal verbs and regular verbs. Here are some common semi-modals: need to, have to, ought to, had better. 1. Need, usage. Need expresses a requirement or necessity for something to happen or be done. It often indicates a lack or deficiency that must be addressed. For example, I need to buy groceries. Note: need can be used in both affirmative and negative sentences, and it often conveys a personal desire or requirement. 2. Have to. Usage: have to also expresses necessity or obligation, but it implies an external requirement or compulsion. It suggests that someone or something is compelling or forcing the action. For example, I have to attend the meeting. Note: have to is typically used in affirmative sentences, and it conveys a sense of duty or external pressure to perform the action. 3. Ought to. ought to expresses advice or a recommendation about what should be done, based on a rule or moral obligation. For example, you ought to apologize for your behavior. Note, ought to is often considered a polite and formal way to give advice. 4. Had better. Usage, had better also expresses advice or a sense of necessity about what should be done, often based on consequences or a specific situation. For example, you had better leave now if you want to catch the train. Note, had better often implies an undesirable consequence if the action is not taken. 2. The structure of modals and semi-modals in English. 1. All modals, will, would, shall, should, can, could, may, might, must, and the semi-modal ought to, had better have only one form. Modals are followed by the bare infinitive, simple or continuous, or the bare perfect infinitive, for example, she cannot swim. She must have finished her work. She must be working on her project. You ought not to speak to him like that. You had better hurry if you want to catch the bus. Had we better book tickets in advance? 2. The semi-modals have to and need to change their form depending on person and tense. 1. Need, for example, I need to study for the exam. She doesn't need to worry. Need I complete this form? 2. Have to. For example, you have to finish your homework. She doesn't have to come if she doesn't want to. Do I have to attend the meeting? 3. Watch out. 1. Using was were able to for past ability only one occasion. Incorrect. When I was a child, I could swim across the lake. Correct. When I was a child, I was able to swim across the lake. 2. Politeness levels of may, could, and can. Less polite. Can you pass me the salt, please? Polite. Could you pass me the salt, please? More polite and formal. May I have the salt, please? 3. Using was were allowed to for past permission. Incorrect. The teacher could leave the classroom during the break. Correct. The teacher was allowed to leave the classroom during the break. 4. Using could for past permission in reported speech, direct speech. She said, you can borrow my car. Reported speech. She said that I could borrow her car. 5. Using hadn't better in questions. Hadn't we better leave now if we want to avoid traffic? 6. Using might, may as well to give advice or make suggestions. Since it's raining, you might as well take an umbrella with you. We may as well leave early to avoid the rush hour traffic. 7. Distinguishing between must and have to for personal and external obligation. Personal obligation with must. For example, I must finish this project by tomorrow. External obligation with have to. For example, I have to attend the meeting because my boss told me to. 8. Using have need to instead of must for questions. For example, do you have to finish this report today? Do we need to bring anything to the party? 9. Difference between mustn't and doesn't have need to. Prohibition. For example, you mustn't smoke in the building. Mustn't is used to indicate prohibition, lack of obligation. For example, you don't have to attend the meeting if you don't want to. Don't have to is used to express a lack of obligation. 10. Usage of didn't have to, didn't need to, and needn't have done. 1. Things we didn't actually do. For example, I didn't have to work late yesterday. She didn't need to call me back. 2. Things we did but weren't obliged to do. She needn't have prepared dinner. We had already eaten. 11. Using the ing form with the verb need. For example, I need to sterilize this syringe. This syringe needs sterilizing. Exercises. Circle the correct word or phrase. 1. I've been having swimming lessons and now I could swim really well. 2. Please should I use your mobile phone? Mine doesn't have any power. 3. Sam ought to get a job instead of complaining about having no money. 4. Okay, yes you should leave 5 minutes early today. 5. Do you think I should tell Michael the truth about what happened? 1. I've been having swimming lessons and now I can swim really well. 2. Please could I use your mobile phone? Mine doesn't have any power. 3. Sam ought to get a job instead of complaining about having no money. 4. Okay, yes, you can leave 5 minutes early today. 5. Do you think I should tell Michael the truth about what happened? 6. I couldn't read until I was 5 years old. 7. I'm sorry, but I couldn't leave your car there. 8. If you want to pass the exam, you can ought to do some revision. 9. I know John lived in Tokyo, but I don't think he may speak Japanese. Point 10. Tracy could sing really well now that she's had a few lessons. 6. I couldn't read until I was 5 years old. 7. I'm sorry, but I can't leave your car there. 8. If you want to pass the exam, you ought to do some revision. 9. I know John lived in Tokyo, but I don't think he can speak Japanese. 10. Tracy can sing really well now that she's had a few lessons.